The conversation about plagiarism versus inspiration is a decently old one now. Copyright and patent laws have enabled artists and inventors to claim ownership of their work since the late 1700s at least, and the line with which we engage with these laws has become more and more difficult to navigate. As a YouTube bitch, there is of course fair use, the aspect of copyright law I cling to and hope that I can include music in my work that I really shouldn't be trying to if I'd like to be monetized. Fair use law brings up the transformative nature of a work, asking if the art based on another stands on its own as a work of criticism, of parody, of homage. I'm not talking about any of that today. Some of it I am. This video isn't about law or the arbitrary boundaries we set for the sake of protecting our brand identities, our IPs, or our monetary compensation, but instead about art's fullest potential to be frustrating and beautiful and also terrible and overblown. This video is about stealing and why it's awesome. And praxis.
Hey, are you gonna be able to keep this video up if you say that?
You guys remember the Slender Man, right? I seem to be determined to make it so that you never fucking forget about him, so I'm gonna assume yes. The majority of this video will be focusing on the video adaptations of Slender Man, notably in Marble Hornets and the Slenderverse, but I will be jumping around to other aspects of the character's history since it all kinda lends to the general point I'm getting at. Not all Slenderverse series are ARGs, or alternate reality games. Many of them only adopt an interactive element by allowing the characters in their series to lightly communicate with their audiences. Their narratives are not affected by the interaction, so it's usually argued that there's not really a game element and therefore those series would not be ARGs. All this to say, when I introduce the term I'm about to say, know that I am including non-ARGs, just general works of narrative, and am defining it as non-consensually borrowing elements from another story in order to directly place oneself within that story's fiction. It's called game jacking. See, game is in the name, so I figured I'd clarify that I mean to cover more than ARGs. We could just call it hijacking to cover more ground?
What about show jacking?
No, not that. No. Game jacking has a rich history in the Slenderverse in particular. As a community and culmination of years of independent works based on a core concept, there's so much overlap and narrative already, just by virtue of using the Slender Man as a core device. And then add on to that the fact that when certain series started gaining followings of their own, fans of their specific lore and characters and fucking habit would create even more specific overlap, where at times fans would directly, publicly contact the series in question as if they were a part of it, with information they made up, or story elements that they felt they could embellish on. Your series specifically has a secondary antagonist with an iconic looking name. Let's make one up right now. Let's just call him Sneaky, because he wears bright yellow sneakers. Well, a 16-year-old from Michigan just commented on your Sneaky reveal video that they know where they can find Sneaky's hideout, and also there's a bunch of binary code in the same comment. Game's been jacked, folks. Sneaky's in the wind. Now, is that problematic for a narrative that is ongoing and has a lot of moving parts? No, creators just clarify what is and isn't canon. They're fine. It's fucking fine. Especially in the first half decade of the Slenderverse's existence, game jacking was both rampant and aggressively combated. I remember it being treated as art thievery on the same scale as breaking copyright law by both creators and other fans. And, you know, it makes sense. There's a knee-jerk inclination to protect your art from becoming more art.
No, you're kind of being a bitch.
Shit, sorry. I got frustrated with it too when I was making my series. The idea that you're carefully curating a story rife with detail and intrigue and lore. God, I just love lore so much. Oh, are we making another character a god again?
Still being a bitch.
Fuck. The idea that you're doing all that and then so much of it can be momentarily upended by a stranger is nerve-wracking. Is nothing sacred? Can our art ever just be our art? No, you gotta share. Share. Or at the very least, you gotta look the other way when folks help themselves, especially in the Slenderverse. And there's one single reason for that. We are all game jacking. Sorry about the Richard Dawkins meme. I had a choice between referencing something that I remember being used in Slender Man context and not showing a picture of a transphobe. I went with the former. Slender Man was 2 images on a forum, and then the Slenderverse begins, with everyday people adapting Marble Hornets and the Slender Man into new videos, all non-consensually. And before you say, well, we aren't borrowing specific narrative elements from those original works, yes, we are. Are you out of your fucking... Okay, pulling back. The Slenderverse has, as a result of its own conception, birthed the necessity to steal in order to expand, be that narratively, metaphorically, textually, or otherwise. Slender Man isn't in the public domain. His rights are in a guy's hands. A guy who, at a point, was serving some takedowns of the more overt attempts at adapting the character for film by fans. Slenderverse stuff typically tended to survive these takedowns because 90% of the videos are on the floor and the grass and like a third of someone's face. Okay, I know I'm being a bitch. Okay, I love this shit, okay? I'm having a little fun. I think this stuff is beautiful and necessary and wonderful, and that's why I'm talking about it, okay? Thank you. In a system that primes us to discourage artistic expression as a detriment to more important art that speaks to more people, art whose value is determined by arbitrary standards of quality and brand and co-opting concepts for use by one person or body. Maybe it's a good thing to have a little corner of that awful world where art can be the chaos that it has the potential to be. Maybe...
Don't say it.
Maybe it can be...
Don't say it.
Maybe it can even be art for
Okay,
everyone.
fucking done.
Anyways, all of this to say, I am formally announcing my new Sneaky series. Hey there, my name's Val. Thanks for watching my video. This is my first video of mine you've seen. This is the only one. Don't go back to any of the previous ones. It's always been like this. Since this is a Slender Man video, I did want to tack this on at the end and mention that there is a documentary coming out about the Slenderverse, which is the community of folks that I was a part of for years and years, still consider myself a part of, and am actively in the community space trying to get people to create and do stuff. Hence this video. The documentary is made by an extremely talented person, Alex Hara, who actually interviewed me for the doc. I am in the documentary along with a bunch of other creators in that community. I would definitely suggest checking it out when it comes out. Also, for all like 2 of you that are a fan of my Slender Man series, Stan Frederick, I do have merch for it. I'm sorry. One of the designs in my merch store is actually based on the concept of game jacking, because I did an episode about it in my series, so but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll update soon. Do you remember in my second Slenderman essay when I was like, wait, I don't smoke, what the fuck? Time makes fools of us all.